to the crosstabs of the latest morning consult poll, and new polling out of Georgia shows Vice President Joe Biden still in the lead.
Team Rising is here. We've got the Hill's political reporter, Julia Manchester, and political reporter for Real Clear Politics, Philip Wegman. Two great friends. Good to see you guys.
Great to see you both.
All right, well, we got to start off with this new morning consult poll. This really caught everybody's eye. So much to dig into, but I think we should start with the racial breakdown. So this is Steve Kornacki, our friend over at MSNBC, and he says, basically broke it down by black, white, and Hispanic. You can see there that black support for Biden is at 34%, Phil, but Sanders is right there at 30%. In Hispanic voters, this is really where it's crazy.
Stunning.
Sanders at 48%, Bloomberg at 17%, Biden fallen to 13%, and Sanders actually leading 28-19, Bloomberg 15 with white voters. Pretty good place to be if you're a Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're Joe Biden going into South Carolina, 34%, you're still in the lead, but just barely.
And not with Hispanics,
Not
right?
with
so for
Hispanics at all.
Texas, it's not going to work
It's not
out.
going to look well.
California,
And
Nevada.
Texas was, part of the Super Tuesday plan for his team. Now there's a lot more worry when you see numbers like this. The question now is how much longer can he hold on?
Well, and we know Texas is on the Bloomberg target list too for
huge Bloomberg state.
Massive ad spend there. I mean, Julia, it is funny to me. We did actually a college tracking poll yesterday that had Bernie at 50%. No surprise to anyone that he does well there, although that is a pretty astonishing number as well. But that he would be at 48% with Latinos, I think that would surprise a lot of people.
It does, but at the same time, I think if you've looked at the trend of his campaign and the trend of over the past 4 years of how he's tried to reach out to these minority groups, it's not as surprising. I think
we're not surprised.
You're not
but
surprised.
I think a lot
Maybe
of the
some
mainstream
other
media folks will be surprised.
I think in 2016, the Sanders campaign got a lot of criticism for not being as in tune with these minority communities. I think a lot of that was that Hillary Clinton carried quite a bit of that support, but he has since really reached out to these communities. And there's actually, I believe, from NBC News, a study they partnered with a data research firm yesterday, and they found that out of, I think, what was it, roughly around 21 million, I would say, that Latinos gave to Democratic candidates. Sanders got roughly 8 million.
Right, yeah.
Of that. So he has definitely, I think this worked to really appeal to these minority communities. And the fact that there isn't someone in the race like Hillary Clinton, it's kind of, there's a number of people running this time, or a number of more viable candidates this time. That's definitely helping these groups.
Yeah, I think let's put the top line numbers from the morning consult up as well, because these are interesting too. We've seen growth for Sanders just in the past couple of days. After New Hampshire, he now leads the field by 10 points. He's at 29%. Biden has slipped down to 19%. Bloomberg, of course, right on his heels at 18%. Also worth noting, though, Philip, that Pete and Amy, who supposedly, have all the momentum, in terms of national polls, not really adding up to much.
Yeah, Iowa and New Hampshire are a good test of concept, and it seems that they can appeal to constituencies there, but nationally the momentum, it doesn't exist. It's interesting though, if you look at how Joe Biden has performed, we heard that he was going to be a juggernaut, and certainly things sort of bounced off him on the debate stage. But after he interacted with voters in Iowa and New Hampshire, and the nation got a chance to see that no, he's not actually inevitable, he started to tumble, and I think we're going to see more.
To that point, this is the most devastating thing for Biden is, let's throw this up, it's that Joe Biden isn't so electable anymore. They did the head-to-heads there. And Bernie has basically gotten a 6-point bump up to +6, Bloomberg +7, Biden -12 in his electability numbers there, Phil. That's the core of his entire case. And that was the only reason anybody supported him.
That is the core of his whole case. And also, what are they starting to chant more and more at Bernie Sanders rallies? Bernie can beat Trump.
Yeah.
And at least the polling is starting to show that that might be true.
Well, and Julia, it reminds me so much of the Trump dynamic, where we kept hearing time to, he has a hard ceiling, right? He's got his cores where he's got a hard ceiling. But as he continued to do well, continued to win, that ceiling went up and up and up, and suddenly, the ceiling was plenty high enough for him to win the nomination. I think we see a similar dynamic with Sanders. People like his policy positions. They haven't felt that they had permission to vote for him because they were worried about his electability. Those concerns seem to be easing as he wins.
Absolutely, and I think looking at all of the lanes in this race, what really helps Sanders is that Elizabeth Warren, seen as the other progressive in this race, she hasn't performed so well, obviously, in Iowa, New Hampshire, national polling. Just in general, she's really declined over over the last month or so. So he's really taken advantage of this progressive lane. And then on the moderate side, it kind of seems like everyone's going after each other. I mean, you have, at first it was Pete Buttigieg and Joe Biden, but now you have Amy Klobuchar in the mix. So they're almost, eating themselves up while Sanders kind of takes advantage of his own lane and potentially gets that momentum
It's
from
just
them.
like Trump in 2016. Jeb Bush running all $100 million ads against Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz fighting with Marco and all. And meanwhile, Trump is there sitting there consolidating the whole thing. I do want to say we shouldn't count Biden out entirely just yet. Let's throw up a Georgia Democratic poll that comes from Landmark Communications and Channel 2 down there. This is a post-New Hampshire poll, and it still shows Biden at 31%. So he's not entirely dead yet. However, he's got to do something in Nevada and South Carolina, Phil. All indications right now is Bernie is doing very, very well in Nevada. Do you think it coming in second in Nevada is enough for Biden?
Yeah, possibly. Georgia's worth, 123
It's a lot of delegates, yeah.
The question is whether he can get through Nevada and South Carolina, get through Super Tuesday, and then their primary is, March 28th, I think it is. Those are a lot of delegates, but that race is so far away.
It's a long way out.
And if he can survive, if he can hang on, well, maybe there's something there. But there's a long time between then and now. And we've seen him tumble in so many polls where he used to be so far ahead.
Yeah.
I wouldn't take this as an indication of anything.
I do think it's interesting, though, look, I don't think Biden is going to be able to make a comeback. Let me put that out there. But I do think we don't want to go too far in completely writing him off, because if you look at Pete and Amy in the national poll, they're never going to be the nominee. It's not happening for him. If you win, if you basically claim a fake victory in Iowa and get second in New Hampshire and you still aren't rating with black voters, this is not going to happen for you. So I think it's very unlikely for them. The only candidates who have shown any strength with diverse communities are Bernie, Biden, and Bloomberg. So you can't just write Biden off. There is still an affinity there. There is still, investments that have been made on the ground. There is still high name recognition. There's still, good feelings about his time with Barack Obama. I don't think it's crazy to think, look, if he comes in second in Nevada and he's going to get a comeback story, the media is going to want to resuscitate him. Then he comes into South Carolina, maybe with a head of steam, and can potentially pull off a victory there. I would not write him off completely yet, Julia.
Yeah, I also don't think we're going to really get a whole very clear picture about this until Super Tuesday, because we know that Mike Bloomberg is likely going to have some sort of impact on all of this. I mean, he is coming ahead or, climbing in a lot of these polls. He's getting endorsements. I mean, granted, I want to preface this with I don't know how much endorsements necessarily matter. I don't want to put all of my eggs in that basket, but he's getting a lot of endorsements from national figures, from mayors, Congress, members of Congress, governors, et cetera. So, I think he's definitely has some momentum right now. So we won't get a clear picture, I think, until Super Tuesday, until we know how much of an impact Bloomberg will actually have.
Nate Silver said this, and I actually think it's very true. He said it's not all just come down to Bloomberg's money, and not even just his message. It's actually a lot of earned media, which is these endorsements, what they do is they get us talking about it. They get the media kind of marveling at this ability, which all feeds his core message of Mike can get it done. And I think that's what's really helping him, Phil.
Yeah, and especially local media as well, because if you're a congressman or if your mayor is going to endorse, the local paper is going to cover it. Bloomberg, he spent a lot of money. We're going to figure out whether or not, obviously he can't stuff that into the ballot box, but we're going to find out if that can, buy and bring along the movement. At this point, the problem with Michael Bloomberg is that, what kind of candidate is he? Is he the climate change Michael Bloomberg? Is he just the former New York City mayor? I don't think that he has really sort of compartmentalized what his pitch is, other than a former businessman who isn't as
Trump. That's
isn't
all
as
he
far
needs.
left as the rest.
Hold that thought. We're going to talk a little bit about electability and how the candidates are shaping up. That's after this.